What up, everyone? It's your boy Red Hawk. It is Tuesday, May 5th, 2026 at 5:20 p.m. in the late afternoon, and I'm going to talk about the significances of going to Universal Studios Hollywood and Disneyland, Anaheim, California. Not necessarily California Adventure. Sorry about that. Just Disneyland, Anaheim, and Universal Studios Hollywood. Maybe even add a bonus mention of Knott's Berry Farm from many years ago. So, I'm going to go on record to say that I've been to Knott's Berry Farm only once, Universal Studios Hollywood twice, Disneyland Anaheim approximately three times, and Universal Studios Orlando once. And I just gotta say, Universal Studios Hollywood, my first visit was really terrible. It was back in 1997, and long story short, I cried on the Backdraft attraction, based on the firefighter movie starring Kurt Russell back in the early 90s, like 93, 94, right along there. A little trivia: my uncle Lawrence, he actually worked at Universal Studios as a cashier and was able to give me some of the cartoonish toys that he could bring and chocolates from the park. Uh, he actually had a plethora of G.I. Joe figures and vehicles as part of his gifts to me back in 1992 when I was like around 3 years young. But I, eh, but I digress. Anyway, back to the troubles that I had with those theme parks. 1997, Universal Studios Hollywood, my first visit. I cried at the Backdraft attraction, thinking that the fire that used in that attraction was gonna burn everybody. So it set off like a great kind of fight or flight sensation in my head, and so I ended up crying my eyes out and just running out of the attraction. And basically, Bio Dad was the one trying to calm me down, trying to get me to stop crying, because he told me that the fire wasn't actually gonna burn anybody down in that attraction. No, it was actually, wait a minute, one, two, three. Ugh. One, two, three. Yeah, three times that I recall going to Universal Studios Hollywood. I'm just trying to recall it because there have been 3 years that has been at the back of my mind. 1997, 2001, and 2006. My Disneyland visits were like around either 98 or 99 for my first visit, and then 2006. Knott's Berry Farm was 2000. I'm trying to go into chronological order here just to try to see the significance of my visits to those parks. Okay, so either 98 or 99 was marked the my first visit to Disneyland Anaheim. Uh, my dad had just gotten off of duty from his ship back in San Diego when he was serving in the Navy as a gas turbine systems technician, GSM. As a veteran, he actually qualified for discounts from MWR for theme parks and all other places that is basically covered by the Navy's moral welfare recreation. And so he got this military discounts for himself and me. From what I could remember, there are two things that I could remember from that visit. One, I was so scared of Magic Mountain. No, Space Mountain. Sorry. I kind of confused it with the Six Flags Magic Mountain, by the way. Awesome, another awesome park in which I worked as a costume actor during 2024. Again, I digress. I'm sorry. Anyway, I got scared at Space Mountain, just like in Backdraft at my first visit in Universal Studios Hollywood. I freaked out. I ran out of the attraction, and Biodev was the one comforting me, uh, telling me that I wasn't gonna get flung out of the rocket speed ride whatsoever, just as long as I was secured. Anyway, I did not go on that ride, and instead we were playing this Whack-A-Crocodile game at the arcade, and the retro-fitted machine that had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the first TMNT arcade game by Konami, which was published in '89, by the way. All the other ones, though, like that Western Frontier log ride, which was a wet one. Yeah, that was like the wildest for me, as well as the Woody Woodpecker roller coaster. Those were about the only two rides that I was able to tolerate, but not Space Mountain. Another significant thing about that visit was that my dad and I got to stop at a rest area on our way home, late night, like maybe around 11 p.m. that time. And I wondered about a fence that had beware of crawling snakes. Don't go beyond that fence because there were several snakes, and I got scared again. This time it was kind of creepy for Biodad to say that he wanted to pray my fear away. He wanted me to pray my fear away with him by saying, "Oh Lord, please take away my fear of snakes." In essence, they're not real. They aren't coming to basically off me, and that I'm protected by the fence. Still, I should have seen the signs that he was making me uncomfortable with his fall religious practices, which, upon realization of his fall religious practices, I made up my mind that I was going to go no contact with him and never speak to him again. In fact, last year marked the last time that I spoke to him, because I needed a reasonable sense of closure from all the hell that he put me through when I was growing up. That's the one for my first visit to Disneyland. My visit to Knott's Berry Farm at Buena Park, Orange County. It was me, Bio Dad, and two of my uncles. One of which, the youngest, he's no longer he departed from this world around 2009, like I mentioned in one of my previous videos. All I can remember was that we were riding this wooden roller coaster. I forgot what it was called. And that I happened to order like a plate of big beef ribs with these big bone barbecue ribs. Not the pork ones, the one with the little bones, but the one with the bigger bones. And my younger uncle was the one that teaching me how to eat it, basically. And needless to say that got messy in a heartbeat because of the sauce, the barbecue sauce on that dish. Okay, so my second visit to Disneyland was right around 2002. I was under the tutelage of Dr. John Whitener for David Starr Jordan Middle School's beginning band. We were competing at, I would say around, if I recall, our band competition was at Buena Park area, or either Buena Park, Anaheim, or some other nearby area in Orange County. And we were up against like 10 schools. There was this Burmese Chinese gentleman who was the dad of one of my fellow band members. And he went on a huge General Patton level of motivation for us to win first place at the very best. And I just gotta say, whoever that gentleman was, I gotta thank him because we actually got to either third or fourth place in the overall competition, losing to two or three different schools in the process. Nevertheless, our reward was that we got to explore Disneyland, Anaheim, and it was my second time going to the park. I was with two blonde boys, same age as me. One of them was named Cody. He played the trombone, and I played the clarinet. We went around, and I don't quite recall if we actually rode Space Mountain around that time, but we went around the space attractions because Star Wars was blooming all around. What with the release of Attack of the Clones Episode 2 around then, which I saw with my eldest uncle and my cousins and my aunt, his wife. In relation to Star Wars 2, I got to buy a Star Wars poster, which I posted in my old room in our old house down at 442 North Parish Place. And it had Hayden Christensen's Anakin Skywalker with a fierce look, accompanied by Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Samuel Jackson's Mace Windu with their lightsabers. It was a very ferocious poster that just screamed total, pure epicness. Second trip to Universal Studios was right around 2006. Back then, I, Biodad, and stepmother, we rented an apartment near Eagle Rock, around Eagle Rock by the Target uh, over there, close to Glendale, because we were living in Arizona around that time. But when we went to Universal Studios, it was around the time when we visited my stepmom's aunt, and in the process, she also got to reunite with one of her younger brothers, who also brought his wife and his kid along. So I don't want to say that it's one big happy family trip because it was extremely saddening for me. What with my enlistment in the United States Navy being imminent, and me just wanting to get out of that house because of toxic experiences pertaining to abuse towards me by the Twisted Two, so to speak. Around that time, my stepmom's brother, he said a prayer, hoping that everybody would return to their living quarters safe and sound after our trip to Universal Studios Hollywood. Around that time, I think I might have ridden Jurassic Park the ride for the second time and Back to the Future. But the significance of this visit to Universal Studios for the second time was that it wasn't about the rides. Rather, it was something sinister. Where do I start? Time and time again, when I turned 16 during my junior year at Reseda High School, and then turned 17 during my senior year in Coolidge High School, my stepmom asked me twice, how old am I? How old was I? The first time I answered that, my first answer during the first instance that she asked me that, I said, I don't know. In very mean, angry Tagalog, she would say, "Napakas-filosofon nitong batang to." It wasn't like snarling like that. She was actually screaming it. And in Tagalog, in furious Tagalog, it actually meant, you are one very philosophical kid. Which she meant in a very sarcastic way instead of complimenting me for trying to develop myself intellectually. The second time that I answered that question, in another time during that holiday trip back here in California, she asked me the question again. How old are you? I answered, 17. And I told her, and you know what she told me? Bah, ang galing mo mag-Espanyol. Which means, damn, you're so good in Spanish. And she meant that, again, she meant that in a very sarcastic way. Not complimenting me, but mocking and patronizing me in a really huge way. And I deeply resented and disliked that. Yeah, hate is a strong word, but I deeply resented and loathed those two instances. Bad stuff aside, I think that was also my third trip to Disneyland, which entailed a great redemption for me. I got to ride Space Mountain without ever getting scared of it. In fact, I kind of liked it. I thought it was like a simulation for fighter pilots out in the Air Force, Navy, and Marines. One in which I would imitate again when I went to Six Flags Magic Mountain last year after being a costume actor at Fright Fest 2024. Those theme park visits, I think the most graceful one would be not here in California, but over at Universal Studios Orlando in 2008. I think it was like right around April or May when I went to Universal Orlando with 2 to 3 guys in my aviation electrician's mate A school class, the very last AE class held in Naval Air Station NAS Jacksonville, aka NASJAX. We had boatloads of fun there. I got to eat at Hard Rock Cafe and got to see the Terminator attraction 3D. Even bought myself a T800 a t-shirt, which I ended up giving away to my eldest uncle. Thank goodness though, because right around 2012, 2013, Terminator 3D was taken out of the selection back in Universal Orlando. And I'm just really glad that I got to go there. If I recall too, I think I might have stopped by Nickelodeon Studios, the very old Nickelodeon Studios over in Orlando, which was advertised in every single show on the channel. There was also a Fast and the Furious attraction, but I don't even recall going there. So all in all, theme park visits and good and bad significances for this one. I just gotta tell you again, folks, that by telling all of this stuff, this is my way of communicating to the world what I had been through during my youth. And I just hope and pray that anybody who watches my videos would take away a lot of things positive and even learn from all the bad stuff that I cover. That way, all of us can work towards becoming better persons in our own individual rights. That's it, folks. That being said, I think I've said too much. Until next time, see you later. Red Hawk, out. Peace.